Hi, I'm Kaylee French. One thing I wanted to learn more about was alternative burials because the thought of being in a casket and buried underground was not appealing to me. In this presentation, I'll share some interesting alternatives that I found. Hope you guys enjoy. The first one I found was eco-friendly tree pod burial. This is an organic burial pod, and it is biodegradable, and the dead body goes inside of the pod, which then the pod works with the nature to turn the decaying body into a tree. One of the main organic burial pod brands is Capsula Mundi, which translates to world's capsule in Latin. The burial capsule is made of biodegradable plastic that's shaped like an egg. It's organic and can be used for either bodies or cremated ashes. Here's how it works. The biodegradable plastic shell is buried with a body or ashes inside of it. Once buried, it breaks down and the remains inside give surrounding nutrients, and a sapling planted above the body begins to take root. Space burials was the second one I found interesting. Space burials is a launching of cremated remains into space. So these missions will go up in orbit around the Earth or to other destinations such as the moon or farther into space. Samples of cremated remains are not scattered in space, so they are not contributing to space debris. Ashes will remain sealed in their small capsules until the spacecraft burns up upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, or until they reach their other destinations. Suborbital flights briefly fly ashes into space, then they return them to Earth where they can be recovered. There is also another option where you can actually be scattered above the Earth through a company called Aura. Gas balloons are used to carry ashes above the Earth's surface. A scattered vessel contains the cremates, opens, and the gentle cascade towards Earth. Camera footage can also be released for the loved ones to keep. The ashes are carried around the world on stratospheric winds and join with the planet's atmosphere over weeks and months and eventually become raindrops and snowflakes. Plastination is a technique or process used in anatomy to preserve body or body parts. The water and fat are replaced by certain plastics, which are yielding specimens that can be touched and they do not smell or decay, and they also can retain most of the properties of the original sample. Plastination of body parts is playing more and more of a role in long-term preservation of tissues and anatomical teaching. There are 4 steps that are used in the standard process of plastination. There's fixation, dehydration, forced impregnation in a vacuum, and hardening. Water and lipid tissue are replaced by curable polymers, which include silicone, epoxy, and polyester copolymer. A specimen can vary from a full human body to a small piece of an organ. This dissection and plastination of an entire body requires about 1,500 working hours and normally takes about 1 year to complete. A memorial diamond is an artificial diamond created from the carbon extracted from cremated ashes, hair, or a combination of ashes and hair. Cremation diamonds are real diamonds made up from human cremated ashes. Firstly, the carbon of the cremated ashes is purified, then it is pressed into a cremation diamond with high pressure and high temperature machine. Carbon from the sample of hair or ashes is extracted and pulled through an intensive procedure of extreme heat and pressure application, which mimics the Earth's natural method of diamond creation. Memorial diamonds and cremation diamonds serve the same purpose: to celebrate the life of our deceased loved ones. The slight difference lies in the materials used for creating these diamonds. While the latter are produced from cremated ashes, memorial diamonds can also be made from hair or fur. Members of the Igorot tribe of Mountain Province in northern Philippines have long practiced the tradition of burying their dead in hanging coffins nailed to the side of cliffs facing high above the ground. Even today, various cultures in China, Indonesia, and the Philippines use this method. The deceased is placed on a wooden sagdill or death chair, and the corpse is tied with rattan and vines, and then covered with a blanket. It is then positioned facing the main door of the house for relatives to pay their respects. The cadaver is smoked to prevent fast decomposition and to conceal its rotting smell. Before being taken for burial, it is secured in the fetal position with the legs pushed up towards the chin. It is then wrapped again in a blanket and tied with rattan leaves while a small group of men chipped holes into the side of the cliff to hammer the support for the coffin. One of the most common beliefs behind this practice is that moving the bodies of the dead higher up brings them closer to the ancestral spirit. Some also believe that when they die, they did not want to be buried because they knew water would eventually seep into the soil and they would rot quickly. They wanted a place where their corpse would be safe. A burial at sea is the disposal of human remains in the ocean, normally from a ship or a boat. It is regularly performed by navies and is done by private citizens in many countries. Burial at sea services are conducted at many different locations with many different customs, either by ship or by aircraft. Usually, either the captain of the ship or an aircraft or a religious representative of the deceased's reason or the state religion performs the ceremony. The ceremony may include burials in a casket, burials sewn in sailcloth, burials in an urn, or scattered of the cremated remains from a ship. Burial at sea by aircraft is usually done with the cremated remains. Other types of burial at sea include the mixing the ashes with concrete and dropping the concrete back to form an artificial wreath, such as the Atlantic wreath. If no remains of the deceased are available at a memorial ceremony, flowers may be dropped into the water, often over or near the location of the death. Body donation, anatomical donation, or body bequest is the donation of a whole body after death for research and education. Donated bodies are mostly used for medical education and research. They are used for gross anatomy, surgical anatomy, and for furthering medical education. Body donation is important for understanding the human body and for making advancements in science. There is usually no cost to donate a body to science. Once a body is accepted for donation, these organizations typically cover the cost of transporting the bodies to their research facility, cremating the bodies after studies are completed, and returning the cremated remains to the family, usually in less than 8 weeks. However, it is always advised to confirm the details of any program you are considering. Body donation plays a crucial role in helping medical and health-related science students master the complex of anatomy of the human body and provides researchers with an essential tool for discoveries to help people. Organ donation is the process when a person allows an organ of their body to be removed and transplanted to another person legally, either by consent while the donor is alive or dead with the consent of the next of kin. Donation may be for research or, for more commonly, a health transplantable organ or tissue may be donated to be transplanted into another person. Common transplantations include kidney, heart, liver, pancreas, intestines, lungs, bone marrow, skin, and corneas. Some organs and tissues can be donated by living organs such as kidney and part of the liver, part of the pancreas, part of the lungs, or part of the intestines, but most donations occur after the donor has died. The surgical process depends upon which organs are being donated. After the surgeons remove the organs, they are transported as quickly as possible to the recipient for immediate transplantation. Most organs only survive outside of the body for a few hours, so recipients in the same nation are usually chosen. In the case of a dead donor, after the organs are removed, the body is normally restored as a normal appearance as possible so that the family can proceed with funeral and either cremation or burial. Cremation paintings are made by mixing ashes into specifically formulated paint in a range of substrates, canvas, wood, or custom personalized objects. Mixing ashes with paint doesn't sound ideal, however, this can create a beautiful piece of art in the hands of the right artist. Some artists have also found a way to develop the ash in a way where you could paint it without using actual paint. These portraits are typically black and white. Once the artist finishes the painting, a UV coating completes the process and seals the paint so that it can last forever. Memorial fireworks are made using a small portion of cremated remains, it's about 3 tablespoons, which are loaded into a shell and then launched in a few short fireworks display. They can be a part of a professional show or purchased as a self-fired kit for home use. Often the fireworks display is accompanied by some of the favorite songs of the deceased. It is not a common practice in the US, but is more popular in the UK, where several competing companies offer cremation firework displays. The content of a 7 by 12-inch vinyl can range from the standard greatest hits specifically composed tracks, audios of the deceased person's voice, or even just plain silence so families can hear the loved one's crackle. The remains must be sprinkled onto a raw piece of vinyl before it is pressed by the plates. This means that when the plates exert their pressure on the vinyl in order to create the grooves, the ashes are pressed into the record. Typically in a teaspoon or ash per disc, there will obviously be some extra crackles and pops resulting from the inclusions of the ashes. It will cost, however, the basic service cost around $4,000, which gives you 30 copies of the record and also that contain the ashes. For additional expenses, you can get a vinyl cover made of a photograph. Cremation tattoos are my personal favorite. Cremation tattoos are created by infusing a small amount of your loved one's ashes into tattoo ink. The ink is then used in the same fashion it would be to get a regular tattoo. The needle injects the ash-infused ink into the middle layer of the skin, cremating the permanent design and also allowing the ashes to be embedded. The ashes of a person used in the cremative tattoo are sifted and filtered to remove any large pieces until the artist is left with a very fine dust. It is then considered best practice to bake the ashes before tattooing process begins for sterilization. When the ashes are sterilized and ground, the artist will mix a very small amount of ash with the ink before beginning the tattoo. Many people are utilizing ash-infused ink to create tattoos for pets or deceased loved ones to still feel connected to the ones they lost. Those were just some of the interesting ones that I found. There are many more to look from, but I hope you guys enjoyed. This is my Works Cited page.